Come on in, the water's fine. Get sucked in by the Triptide. Hey, and welcome to Triptide. So, we have a few announcements to make. First off, this is our 50-cent spectacular. Woo! Triptide has officially earned 50 cents. Now, we can't see any of that money until we get to $10. So by 2022, let me tell you, we will be buying ourselves some McDonald's.
Yeah, and to all my poor friends out there, don't talk to me anymore, losers.
You're cut off.
I'm too famous for that.
I
now.
can't hear you down there at the bottom.
I don't speak poor.
So, we have a few things to discuss today. The first one I wanted to bring up. I read this book from Neil deGrasse Tyson not long ago. Letters from an Astrophysicist, I think. I recommend it. One of the letters involved, what would you do if you were president? His response was essentially, I would implement, a system that helps us pick better presidents, as I am vastly unqualified to be the president. And I thought, that's a pretty great answer. I mean, pretty accurate.
Yeah.
But it got me thinking, assuming you had the presidential power, what would you do? And assuming, at least try to do. Obviously, some things might get vetoed, but what would be an act you'd try to get passed as president?
First of all, mandatory bring your dog to work day for all federal employees.
What if they don't have dogs?
They're fired. It's that simple. Vice president doesn't have a dog? Fired. Just get him out of here. So all federal, that would be my first executive order.
Does that mean all vice presidents and president candidates must have dogs now?
Yeah. You have to be a good Christian white man, and you have to. No, I'm just kidding. They would probably need to have dogs unless they were going to undo my executive order.
So, as somebody with a cat, you can go fuck yourself.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah.
Now, not to get us off on a vulgar start here.
That was just my first one.
Okay.
I did have a second one.
Wow.
I was just making a general statement.
What a
that was my
productive
first.
member of society here, folks.
What would your first one be?
My first thing that I would do is I would paint the White House camouflage, and I would pretend nobody could see it. I think it'd be real funny, right? You just go to your press meeting. Our secret location in D.C. has not been penetrated, really
I think
fortify it.
You don't think people would get mad at that one?
Who cares?
I'm the president.
Exactly. The president doesn't have standards.
Do you think they have urinals in the White House?
I mean, they must. Why wouldn't they?
I don't have a urinal in my house.
Well, yes, but it's not used by multiple people daily.
Okay, the presidential suite in the White House doesn't have a urinal.
Assuming it has a bathroom, then yes.
Mm.
I'd imagine so. Just because it's presidential, for a little lux.
I wonder what the presidential bathroom is like.
I wonder if the first woman president will remove the presidential urinal out of disrespect.
Oh, that's a great question. We should ask the first female president.
All right, so we're going to be having Aubrey Plaza on next week. We do have a question from our viewers. Somebody that I did say didn't leave us a question, and technically did. If we're getting into semantics, they left it and I forgot. Semantically.
If you want us to address questions, please comment on our YouTube page.
Or our Instagram, like a civilized human being.
Yes.
Not text from a number. That could be anybody, really.
Seriously.
I don't know you. But the question is, if you hear Siri trying to prepare for this, what are your thoughts on garden gnomes? They seem to be something people either really like or are wildly terrified of. I'm also curious to know if you guys know the history of it. Why a garden gnome?
Okay, well, to answer that one, I don't know the history of garden gnomes. I'm sure there's some spiritual meaning behind them. I'm not a garden gnome fan. I don't know any garden gnome fans. I don't understand them or why anybody would. I mean, they were probably pretty expensive, the actual ceramic ones. I'm sure if you collect a lot of them. And one of my least favorite movies of all time is Romeo and Juliet. So It's a big no for me, dog.
You see-
Garden gnomes are out.
You make good points. My thing is, who is wildly afraid of garden gnomes? I don't think anyone grew up with
No one's-
Doofenshmirtz history. I don't think there's many people tortured by garden gnomes, but I want to see what's going on in this chick's past where she's wildly afraid of garden gnomes, possibly, but I find him pretty average, pretty much like, well, my garden's kind of ugly, so might as well make it uglier. But I think their opinion has actually gone up, in my stance, because of Gnomeo and Juliet,
No.
actually.
No.
And I think we can't neglect Sherlock Gnomes, the hit sequel. So I really
I didn't
think
even see that one.
gnome-based film and cinema has brought them to a greater attention in the nation that they've been deserving.
If you could have one celebrity in gnome form in your garden, what celebrity would you make a gnome?
I would pick the guy who I want to say Peter Dinklage, because
I don't know who that
well,
is.
I think you do.
I feel like I do, but I
So
don't.
he's a character in Game of Thrones. I can't remember who, but he's a little guy, and I want to say he might
yes.
also be the guy who plays the elf, the bad elf. He's not an elf,
Yeah.
but he's like a book designer in Elf
Yeah.
that they call
Yeah,
South
that's him.
Pole Elf. Just because he is a little guy and he's made it in the acting world, so good for him. A lot of small actors are discriminated into being cast as like elves or
So
munchkins.
to solidify this stereotype, you are making him a gnome.
No, I want to celebrate him, but it's also just the most accurate, It's like I could have a life-size model of Peter Dinklage. I'm not going to have a life-size model of anybody else. So I think that's why my choice. I want it to be life-size, and Peter Dinklage
So
would be.
it's like a 4.5 foot gnome.
Yes.
Oh my god,
It's a scary gnome.
that would be pretty scary.
I don't even know if he's 4.5 feet, though, right? Because
I'm sure he's around there.
he looks pretty short on film. I don't know. I don't know if they're called little people or dwarves right now, so I don't want to offend anybody, but I want to know what the average height is of these people.
I think it has to be under 5 foot.
Just under 5 feet? Because I feel like a girl who's 4'11" isn't seen as, a little person technically. She's just super short. So where's the line?
I don't know. I'm sure there is a specified legal number.
Because I think it's
I don't know
it's a
it, though.
genetic thing where you have dwarfism, I think is the term that makes it so you don't grow. So I'm sure there's some medical backing to that as to what the numbers end up being.
Me being 6'9", I just would have no idea what that number is.
So what gnome would you want? What celebrity gnome would you pick?
My celebrity gnome. Do you know that picture of John Lennon with the cowboy hat on and his legs are super long, and Yoko's behind him
I
laughing
have
at
never
him?
seen this in my
Oh,
life.
really?
I have no idea what
This is
you're
one
talking
of my
about.
favorite pictures of John Lennon. I would want that picture of him in gnome form. So it wouldn't be just they're standing straight like they normally are. It would be this kind of cowboy walking gnome, but it's John Lennon. I think he would like that. I think that would be a good way to honor him and everything he's done for music.
Yeah, I think when he joined the Beatles, he was like, "I'm gonna get a lot of garden gnomes." That was his goal in the future.
I'm sure.
Something I was thinking about. I know you said you had something to discuss, actually, right?
We can do it after.
Okay. I did just want to bring up the idea of cruel and unusual punishment,
Mm-hmm.
right? I feel like I've been looking societally a lot.
English.
Yes, and I feel like over a broad scale, it is weird when you're a kid and you kind of just assume the world is made up of the people who live in it and everything's very base. Object permanence is kind of loose. It's like
You're just having a
there,
good
but
time.
who cares about them?
Who knows if mom will pick you up from school that day?
Honestly, you're not thinking about it until the car's not there. So
Exactly.
it's a very happy-go-lucky, easy world. But being, an adult now, it's interesting looking, obviously, as I've mentioned before, at the history of just brutality that is the human race.
Mm-hmm.
We're a pretty crazy people. Very recently where we, maybe we shouldn't own each other. That was something that we figured out not too long ago. So
Yeah.
we're still a pretty crazy race. And we have this law in America for all of you people. We looked at our listening percentage. We have less than 1% in Germany, so shout out to you.
Thank you, Germany.
But
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag. Donkeshon.
Ich liebe dich.
Donkeshon. So we have this thing called no cruel and unusual punishment. And what? Excuse me, bro? We have lethal execution and we have solitary confinement and a place called death row. So it's like that pretty much defines cruel and unusual punishment to me.
Here's the genius behind it. Let me, in defense of cruel and unusual punishment, they did it so many times that they got rid of the unusual part. So now it's just cruel, but everyone's kind of cool with it now because it's not unusual anymore. It's like the status quo.
So I guess what I'm thinking is, how come cruel punishment never really got banned? You know, they recognized it was a problem and they were like, well, stop tying people's limbs to horses and sending them different ways. You know, they were like, we got to do something else. And we have this concept of the prison system, which, you know, there's a lot of politics around right now. But I think we can all agree the prison system is not as bad as being executed, you know? And like this recent presidential campaign, a lot of people were executed. And
well, not because of the campaign.
Well, under the administration, though.
Yes.
Under this recent administration,
yes,
a lot of people were executed. And it's
the
crazy
most.
to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
How could we? It was like 24.
He was going
people.
for that high score.
I know. Like, I don't understand how we. I think it was 24. I could be totally wrong on that number. I am bad with numbers. So
yes.
How can we execute like 20-some people? And looking into it, the post about these people were like, yeah, no, they're not like the guy from the Green Mile or anything. You know, maybe some of them were, but there were people who were pretty much just like not awful people, and there was a good case for them, and it was like, nah, we're just gonna murder them because they helped murder somebody. I don't understand the concept of lethal punishment. It seems such a barbaric concept when you consider like,
well, it is.
Yeah, but like when you consider Shawshank Redemption, I don't know what Red did. I didn't read the book. Maybe it tells you. But in the movie, Red is Morgan Freeman. And he's Morgan Freeman age Morgan Freeman. And he came in when he was a young lad, and he's like a great person because he spent his whole life in prison being sorry for what he did. And that alone is kind of messed up, that he spent all of that time with no chance of rehabilitation till he was old. But thinking that they would just kill him and be like, well, maybe you learn your lesson, but you don't get a chance. You know, your life is just over. That seems like overkill to me.
Yeah.
So the question I have for you is, one, your thoughts, and two, is there a situation where you think there should be execution as a punishment?
Well, I'm going to shoot it right back at you, though, because you think someone who chooses to end somebody else's life, you don't think it's fair that someone gets to choose when their life ends?
No. I think it's the same thing as people, like, that's arguing two wrongs make a right, essentially. It's saying they murdered somebody so we can murder them because it's no longer wrong. And I don't agree with that sentiment. I think the idea behind it is, sure, they killed somebody and they need to be prevented from killing somebody. But even in a very biblical manner of, like, love your enemy, I feel like we give up on these people instantly. We're like, well, they're in prison away from us, this dirty person. Get them and their dirtiness out of here. Maybe if we're lucky, they'll die. But, like, we have 0% interest in being like, how do we fix this person who's damaged enough that they murdered somebody? And a lot of people, I think, get into criminal trouble young. And to me, what's crazy is, like, thinking about how long life is. Like, I've already realized a huge gap in my life. That was years 18 to 21, where I feel like I underwent a lot of change. And the older you get, you realize you're dying faster and life is getting shorter, and there's so much crazy history to the world and future to the world, and you become a smarter, more developed person. So the idea to me is, like, we're taking away somebody's chance at life because of something they did when they were younger. And I think, if anything, like, maybe they've learned from that more than most people have how to be a good person. Not everybody. Some people will just go kill again. Some people are just angry at the world. But if somebody tries to rehabilitate themselves and the response is that they either live in prison for the rest of their life or die, it seems like we kind of just give up on them and judge them by one part of their life. When I know a lot of people, like, think about how many soldiers we have that kill people all the time that they don't know. They're defending their country, and we praise them. And I get that, it's a huge difference, and we need a military. But it's the idea that killing isn't so inherently unfathomable. It's not something that I can't imagine ever doing. Most people are like, if you get attacked in your house and you have a gun, you'll shoot the attacker. Most people justify self-defense. So when there's a malicious intent to it, they take that difference and say, that cost your life. I think it should cost a lot, but not somebody's entire life. I don't think they should be deprived of their humanity for that.
Now, what would you say if they wanted, like, death row?
Well, give it to them.
So you would leave it up to that prisoner to either be like life in prison or you could die right now.
Yes, I think life in prison is still a little suspect, but it's hard because you have to judge rehabilitation, and that's something that I still have no answer for. But execution, I think, I don't support suicide in any light, but I think if somebody, is bleeding out, it's merciful to kill them. If somebody is in physical pain and they want to die, that's merciful, And when it comes to prison, it's hard because I could see, like, I would lose my mind in prison. After 20 years of not being free and living a routine, I just probably wouldn't want to be alive unless I had a strong support system on the outside and, like, a lot of friends on the inside.
Yeah.
But if I wasn't in a great prison, I don't think I'd want to be alive.
We should probably stop the money laundering then of our 50 cents.
That 50 cents did not come from Triptide viewers, let me tell you. Hold up at the 7-Eleven. But I don't know, like, what do you think about it? Would you be okay? I guess you would be, but then would you be okay with sending somebody to death row for a crime against their will?
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's definitely tough because my gut reaction is like no mercy, like people don't change type of deal. But you do raise an interesting point, excuse me, of that person has now the potential to learn more about life than someone who hasn't killed another person, which I think is interesting. Yeah, my gut reaction is, you took someone else's life, like, who are you, but if I think if they were like, I'd rather choose life in prison, and, if we give them the choice, like you said, then I think that's probably more fair and justifiable. But there's a lot of cases of people getting put on death row who are innocent.
I know.
And not being killed, like they're able to get out of it, but there have been a ton of innocent people put on death row.
There's definitely been a lot of innocent people killed too, and there's definitely been a lot of people killed whose crimes were way less severe than the average death row. Yeah. It's very arbitrary, and the U.S. judicial system's pretty much like, just not feeling you. Like today you're screwed. I just
it
don't
really
know why.
is.
It's so messed up. One thing I was thinking is this idea of we have people come in. There's scared straight programs and stuff where they talk to prisoners, and it's like you don't want to be in jail. And there's motivational speakers who are like, I've messed up, and here's my life now. I feel like if you took murderers who would reform their lives and made them motivational speakers, it would really kind of reform the image, I think, especially like kids on the street who had past gang members come and be like, look, I spent 20 years in prison and it's not worth it. Like, it was terrible and I hated my life. And I think that concept is motivational. We have this idea of the media is facilitating school shootings and shootings in general. Because when somebody shoots somebody, they're a celebrity briefly. The media is like, look at this face and this name and all the great things he could have been if he didn't also just like shoot up the school. He gets all of this publicity, which at times is what they want. So there's an argument about whether or not you hide
Show
these
the
people,
face
you
and
know,
everything, yeah.
and whether or not you just try to vanish them and make them go away. But I think if we entirely get rid of these people, people in similar situations aren't going to learn. You know, I think we need to show these people reformed and wanting a better life in a better capability, and we can't do that if we're just killing them all or locking them up with life without any chance of parole. You know, I think it's going to be hard for these people to reform. They're either going to just be depressed and die, or we're killing them.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I really think, you know, I still am a believer if people don't change. Um, you know, if it's definitely one thing to just be a part of a gang, like, okay. But I feel like the second you are taking somebody's life that you didn't need to, I just have a hard time justifying that and justifying that person, honestly.
And
But
the idea, I think, is that they do too, though. You know, at a certain point, if they're sorry for it, like, that's going to haunt them for the rest of their life.
sure. So would you put a time limit on I don't know, you have 20, 30 years to feel sorry or else you're gone?
It's not even just, like, feeling sorry so much. I guess for me, it's like the idea that we focus on reformation and these people are being punished, but it doesn't seem to me like there's any. It seems like the idea is, well, maybe if we take their life away, they'll be so sad that their depression will stop them from causing crimes again.
Mm.
You know, it doesn't seem like jail has got any hope or
No,
any life
prison
in
is
it.
not reformation.
And it should be.
It
to
should
me.
be.
I think
I
it would be
agree.
like, well, here's what your life could be, but, you know, if you don't show signs of being this kind of person, we're not going to let you out. And it should, like, if you murder somebody, it's hard for me to see that you could spend less than, like, 30 years in prison. You know, it's hard to see that that number goes down for me. But even then, like, just imagining how much my life changed from being a child to high school to college, but you think your life kind of plateaus as you get older, but I know in 30 years I will be such a different person.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I feel the same way, I'll have so many different traits. So imagining you murdered somebody and you spend 30 years paying for that, I think that has to totally sculpt your brain into a different person.
Yeah.
So it's hard to see that these people are just getting that chance taken away. As much as I understand why there needs to be this fear and this hate, it's hard to see that's all there is, really.
Is there a number of killings where execution is justifiable?
That's the thing. Like, I wouldn't have any problem executing Hitler, and it's just, it was...
So 6 million is your fucking line?
That's at least an example. But it's hard because it depends. You know, if somebody is like, all right, I'm broke, I'm going to murder this guy and rob him, that's one thing, you know? But if somebody's like, oh, let me go to a church of black people and shoot it up because they're black people, you know, it seems much more like, even if you're reformed, are you reformed from being racist? Like, there's so much to work on there versus somebody who's poor and he's like, man, I'm trying to cut a break, and if I kill somebody, my life gets better. You know, it seems like there's a lot of mentality to why somebody might be killing you have to take into effect. And it's hard because it doesn't seem like there's just a line where you can say, like, this killing was this bad and this justified.
No.
Because they're all wrong. But there's definitely a degree, you know? Who are you killing? Is it a child? Is it an adult? Why are you killing them? Is it because you're a bad person and you don't like their race? Or is it because you're a bad person and you need money to feed yourself? You know? I don't think you can be a good person and kill somebody. But I think there's a huge difference in motive in those two scenarios, and things like that should factor into, like, and that's this system almost needs a common sense council to just be like, what do we think about this person, and how long do we look and see if they've reformed, you know? Versus it's kind of just like, well, if we don't have a universal standard, then we're not going to implement anything, is kind of where we're at now. And that seems to be a problem because it's so not universal. These cases are so hit or miss.
So is your solution just to get rid of federal killings,
I think it's not a bad idea
executions.
because I think rarely does somebody justify it, and if they do, I really don't see what's worse about having them rot in a prison cell. You know, I think maybe people could ask for executions, but I think it's wrong to kill somebody and take away their life because of who they were, when still the alternative they're getting is rotting in a jail cell for the rest
Yeah.
of their life. It's not like they're going out to the park or something. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't a good alternative, which is why I think if we already have prison, which seems so dead and hopeless, we don't need to be killing people on top of that and just furthering murdering people and this process of like evil. It seems like, you know, an inherent evil.
Yeah. I think I agree. I think the answer is just life sentences and not have cruel and usual punishment. You did touch on one thing which I wanted to talk about, which was solitary confinement. And there was a video. It's called Mind Field, and it's one of his earlier episodes on Vsauce. But so Michael, for those of you who haven't seen the video, this like average everyday guy, he locks himself in this bright white room for 3 days. He doesn't get a clock. And the light's on the entire time, so he doesn't get to see if it's day or night. And that's in there is a bed, a toilet, a sink, and like some Soylent. So
he has a fridge, I think, with like white yogurt or something.
Yeah.
To keep everything in the room white.
Yeah, it's basically he's like almost sensory deprivation to some extent. So 3 days, 72 hours, he puts himself in this room. Could you do it?
I think I could. And I could only do it if I was told you're getting out in 3 days, and I trusted the people who were going to let me out in 3 days, who were going to signal me that it's been 3 days. He also has a camera watching him that he can talk to, which kind of gives him a little bit of a mental edge.
Yeah, I agree. And when I first saw this video, that was the first thing I said too, is that him talking to the camera, and he knew that there were other people watching that camera, that gave him almost like a security blanket and affected this experiment. I don't know if I could do it. 72 hours is a long time. Like I'm sure that I could force myself to do it, but I would totally come out a different person. Like I believe that. Like, cuz also I wouldn't be able to sleep. Like he's able to sleep in that room, but it's so bright in there. Like for me personally, like I wouldn't be able to sleep, and that's one tool that you could use to get through this time. I straight up would not have that, so I'd feel every second, and I think that'd be really difficult for me.
I think I could definitely sleep, and
you could sleep for 72 hours.
I would sleep for like 24 of them. I'd be like, wow. But I would go a little crazy. And the signals of Michael going crazy, Michael from Vsauce, this man, he gets into the state where he dreams about being in this room because it's the only stimulus he's had for 2 days. And he wakes up, and he gets very confused because when you're dreaming about being in a room and waking up there, you don't understand reality. And 3 days doesn't seem like that long, but you have to understand that he, by like the end of day 1, thinks he's a good portion through day 2. And by the end of day 2, he's like ready to get out.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, I'm done. He can't comprehend that there's a whole day left.
It's really crazy to see how fast he lost his sense of time.
And he gets up very startled, like clearly he has no idea where he is. And he opens the door once. And then he closes it just to make sure he can open the door. He gives himself another like security blanket.
Yeah.
And the idea is that this is, you know, and he's a smart guy. Michael from Vsauce, to be fair, he's a very intelligent guy. He already mentally was like deteriorating just because he didn't have anyone to talk to or anything to do to hold his mental focus. You know, he played games with himself. He did exercises. But after a while, you know, you just get bored. Your brain needs an exterior source of input. And I think I would need that and I'd go crazy. But if I knew I was getting out in 3 days, I could convince myself to stay in.
What, other than sleeping, what tools would you use to pass the time?
I would definitely do comedy bits. I would do so many comedy bits. I would do exercises. I would just try, and I think having ADHD both helps and hurts. You know, it would make me feel more psychotic, but it would keep me more distracted. I would tell myself stories and write books and write screenplays and just do anything that I thought, like anything I thought, really. I would just vocalize it and talk.
Okay.
And it would help a lot if there was a camera, because I'd be like, I'll get to watch this later. But even if there's not a camera, I think I would just talk to myself and have full-on conversations. And it might drive me a little closer to the edge, but it would kill enough time that 3 days would come a lot sooner than I think it might if I didn't have so much to think about.
I found it interesting that he didn't, because the first thing that I thought I would do would be singing. Just singing all the songs that I know and I have memorized. I found that very interesting that he didn't go for that. He instead went for counting, which I think is a dangerous game to play, because I think I would resort to counting at some point, maybe count like all the squares in the room or something. But counting is like time. So the second you start counting, you're going to know how many seconds have passed by how many times you've counted, you know? So, and that would be like, oh shit, I've counted to 120, but it's only been 2 minutes, like that kind of deal. I think that was a dangerous game for him to play.
The problem is this guy's kind of a nut job. He has a video of him listing prime numbers that's like an hour long. Michael is definitely crazy,
Yeah.
but he's also very numerically wired, so it probably is satisfying for him to get a sense of how many tiles are in the room on that basic, like, I got them all, you know, I counted them all. And he probably would draw more satisfaction from counting than singing, even though I'm sure, you know, singing would do something for his brain. I think the idea is certain people would just be wired to certain activities, and he especially, I think, would get something out of counting because he's very close to numbers, not only in his work, but in his life, I think.
So doing bits, talking out loud, that's one tool. Do you think that all the Soylent, you know, those bottles of like mush food he had, do you think that would last you the 3 days?
Yeah. I mean, I think that he had surplus, right?
Because, well, the reason I ask is I'm also the kind of person to eat when I'm bored. Like if I'm like, you know, I'm kind of just scrolling on my phone right now, I'll just go grab a bag of chips or a glass of iced tea or something. Like, so I'm curious. I would be curious to know if I'd even have enough food. Like, obviously I'd have enough food, and at some point it would hit me, like, okay, I probably got to chill. But one of my boredom tactics is to eat food.
Yeah, I think I definitely like eating out of boredom, and I would try to eat a lot, but I think I'd also work out, you know, because I think I'd try to I'd be like, all right, let me work out for a while and then eat, you know, and I'm getting jacked. Even though I'm wasting my life away in this box, I'm getting in shape, you know,
Yeah.
and I think I'd feel good about that. So if I didn't have enough food to last me like a week in there, I'd be a little more sus. But if I had definitely too much food for my 3 days, I think that'd help a lot, you know. I
Yeah.
think it would be much more satisfying when there's not a limit to how much you can eat, especially because you don't have a timer, you know. You don't know if it's the end of the 3rd day, so you can just pound the rest of that Soylent.
And then my last question, no electronics, but if you could bring one thing in there for stimulation, but maybe like it's extended to a week. So say a week, but you get one thing that's not electronic, what would you bring?
This is tough. My initial reaction is to say a deck of cards, because I can play solitaire. And I could do a bunch of stuff. But the other option is a book, and it has to be a long book that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Because if it was like even a normal-sized book, I'd finish it in 2 days if I had nothing to do. And then I'd be like, well, I don't really want to reread this, but I guess I will. And then rereading it the 3rd time, I'd just be like, I hate it. I think a card deck, there's at least like
That's a
enough
good one.
RNG to solitaire and to other things you can do with cards that it would keep me more tided over.
I think my gut reaction would be like instrument. It's probably like guitar, piano, something like that. But I probably couldn't fit this entire piano in there. Um, One thing that just I think darts would be pretty fun to try and get good at darts in that time, um, and just keep doing it over and over and over. So yeah, I'd like the idea of cards though, like a kind of game. And obviously solitaire is the biggest because you couldn't do anything like chess. Like I'm sure you could learn a ton of variations,
You could play
openings,
yourself.
whatever. Yeah, but like while chess has infinite, kind of moves, I'm sure playing by myself would not be that enthralling for a week. So if there's something that I could improve upon in that time, I think that would be something that I'd try and bring into it.
I think guitar is a good pick. Now that you mentioned music, because one of my first thoughts was music, but I was like, well, an MP3 player would still be electronic.
Yeah.
I was trying to work around it. A guitar would be fun. I wish I could bring like a better guidebook too, like some sort of like
You
book.
you sneak a book into the,
Into the guitar.
the body of the guitar.
Shawshank Redemption. But I think that's a good one because you'd both be learning and improving a skill.
Mm-hmm.
But you're also incredibly musical. You know how to play your instruments well. I think for me, I'm low enough on the learning curve, I might get frustrated because I'd want to like look at something to tell me where to go and
Yeah.
what to do next, and I couldn't. So I'd be doing the same things. Like
I think
just
that's
getting
why
set.
piano would be a little bit easier because, at least for me, like guitar, having to essentially like count up the frets to get to a note, that would be so infuriating to me. But with a piano, you can look at every single note, and if you're like, okay, I want to learn how to make a diminished chord, you could play around enough until you figured out the pattern behind how to make diminished chords, for example. So yeah, I think music is definitely would be a good one.
It makes me wonder too. You always see like depictions of people who are kidnapped and stuff, and like in a movie, the idea is the bad guys are tied up and there's a TV there or something, and a commercial comes on and they cite it word for word. Like the idea is they've been hearing this commercial all the time for like a week, and now they both say it word for word together. So I do think if I just put a week to something, anything, and I locked myself away with food and that thing, like there's so much potential to
Sure.
just know things or like read things if you just dedicate time to it. And it would hurt my brain and I would be sad, but I think you could come out the other end like way better. And I think about that a lot considering how many months go by, whereas like a week of that month could be spent really getting good at something if you just put all of your time into it.
Well, so we're coming up to a year of quarantine,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone's had this opportunity to get better at something. Do you think you achieved that?
I think I learned a little guitar. I got into reading more, which I'm happy about, but I've taken some mental lapses for sure. But I did read, I think I finished the Iliad during the beginning of quarantine maybe, or maybe it was right before. But then I read the Odyssey,
Yeah.
and I've been reading and playing guitar and then trying to stay social. And then also we started up this podcast, so I think that
Yeah.
helps. And I think I've just done a lot of stuff in general, kind of sparsed around. One of my issues is I'm so attracted to like having 6 projects going on at once.
I
Because
could
as
never.
soon as I lose interest in something, it's like, all right, well, I can just do this. And my brain is so sporadic, it's always kind of like, well, I want to learn that instead. And then when I'm doing it, it's like, oh, I've been doing this for 20 minutes. I could go learn that other thing. I get so mentally split apart sometimes that it's hard. But I think I didn't make the worst use of it, but it also definitely personal development, I think, came in clutch. Like just having so much time to sit there and think, I think it really helped me like mellow life kind of as a large scale view. I don't think I was high strung per se, but I think I'm a lot less high strung just in the eyes of like nothing matters. Like absolutely nothing is really important enough to be upset about. It's like, man, well, this happened, yeah, but I'm also gonna die. Like everyone's gonna die and the world's gonna end.
The cake is a lie.
Yeah, it's applying existentialist theory to a more livable environment, and I think that's something that kind of occurred. And it's also helped listening to Duncan Trussell, I think, has been a lot of the inspiration for just getting into like sacredness and not even religious involvement, but just this idea of like connecting to the world around you in a manner similar to many religions. And I want to read, more religious texts and learn about different cultures now because of it. But the idea is, meditate, be in touch with yourself, be in touch with the world around you, and try to do things that are spiritually significant for you. Try to do things like even rituals. Like if you wake up and you say something to yourself, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I want my mantra to be because I want it to be good, but something meaningful to yourself every day. Maybe that means a lot more than praying would for you, because there's something to that. I can't remember what I was learning about, but it's a culture that you wake up and you greet your own mind every day. And the first thing you do is like you say hello to yourself and get yourself in order. And then you go out the door. And I think something like that alone definitely impacts your mentality. So I want to look into things like this that are, adoptable from other cultures without having to sign any paperwork and like join a religion.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
I like the idea of you wake up in the morning and it's like, morning shit face.
Every morning.
That's my mantra. So yeah, are you thankful for quarantine?
No.
Really?
I think I can be, but it's also, I've been developing anyway, and I think quarantine was long enough.
It's still, okay, by the way, it is still happening.
It's still happening, but I'm going to college in February to quarantine around my friends, not quarantine. I mean, I will, but like, we'll all hang out, and that's something that's been a lot more rare these days.
Your social bubble is going to change, but you're still going to keep a bubble.
Yeah,
of some kind.
And I think the bubble here, it was so, the thing is, I've been living at home, and the idea is this feels like a long high school, and I think that was a big mental setback for me, because at college it's different. It
totally
feels new.
different.
At home, it's like, even if I can get the same freedom to go out to my friend's house, coming back home, it's relaxing, it's comforting, but that comfort turns into smothering soon, because it's like, this is the house I've been in for so much of my life, and I've spent so much of my life doing things in the basement, and it's just like, I just want to be somewhere else,
Yeah.
And that's finally coming for me, so I'm excited, because I'd much rather be trapped in a dorm room right now than trapped in my basement, and my basement's much nicer, but just that scene change is everything for me right now.
That would be huge. And also just like walkability, because, and that's one thing that has really impacted my life, is my neighborhood is a P shape, and so there's only one way to go, and maybe you can go clockwise versus counterclockwise, but that's it. And you see the same houses and you walk the same hill, like it's just not the same. And so yeah, living in DC, just being able to walk to new places and new areas was so satisfying. So it just, yeah, I agree, like home is awesome. I do enjoy being home. I enjoy that our group of friends from high school is home as well, for the most part. Schmon McGee. But the biggest thing for me was like, I just don't fucking go outside anymore, because there's no point in going outside anymore. It sucks, man.
I love going to Purnell's house. Shout out to Purnell. We went to the hot tub, and it was just like, sitting outside. There was like a light snow. It was basically like a drizzle, but with snow. But it was just like, like being outside, and it's nice. Summer quarantine was different than winter quarantine. I mean, I used to go on walks in my neighborhood. Now I'm just like, it's cold out, and I'll be uncomfortable, and I could be warm inside.
Yeah.
So it's so hard to find a reason to go outside.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, that's 99% of everything, but I'm not interacting with it.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating, because it's like, the second you do, you're like, well, I'd feel good about myself if I wasn't cold and sad and wanted to be dead. Like, I hate winter. It's really turned on me this year.
Yeah, man. It's hard. My dad gets his vaccine tomorrow. He's very excited. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully getting ours before the end of the year. Fingers crossed. We'll see how that goes.
My parents both got one, and they have to get their second because it's like 2 shots.
Mm-hmm.
But
Are
I'm
they
excited for
zombies
that.
yet?
I don't know. I think my dad might have been feeling weird.
Okay.
But my mom seems like she's fine. I think they both caught spontaneous combustion from the vaccine.
I heard that was one of the side effects.
Yeah, I don't know. It happens.
Did they try
It's
moon
part of
screen?
life. Moon screen actually furthered their spontaneous combustion. We're not gonna talk about that, but I think I don't know. It's a weird situation where like, and one of the things people have been bringing up is like, oh, Biden's in office. Look at how comfortable everyone is opening up and how much virus isn't a real thing. And it's kind of true, And I think part of it is the leadership. There was a lot of clarity and trust in the Trump administration for sure. But when Biden came in and he was like, the virus is real and I am scared of it and I do wear a mask, people were way more comfortable being like, maybe we know where we're going, But in reality, I don't think a whole bunch changed in terms of like the danger of having a restaurant open. But a lot of cities are opening their restaurants again. So the question is like, is it just pandering to Biden to be like, oh, now that Biden's president, we'll reopen our nation and get jobs back in business? Or is there like a valid reason to stay closed until you have a president that you can trust more? And I think, regardless of your political stance, Donald Trump didn't acknowledge COVID well. He lied about it afterwards. He was not handling it well. Is that justifiable to say, we'll close down these restaurants and put people out of business, and then when Biden comes back, kind of just open up without the vaccine being very, very out there yet?
Well, places aren't opening up, but the change was you can't do outdoor seating. And so all these places that can't do outdoor seating, they have to do indoor seating or else they won't survive. And a lot of businesses haven't survived. So that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, winter definitely did come in a bad time.
I think Biden is getting a little lucky because he got into office right when the vaccine was distributable. So I think that was good for him.
Yeah, it's also, to me, though, like, there are major cities that are switching, and Delaware is a place that we like to vacation when we're not at Area 51.
Mm-hmm.
And when we go visit our friends there, you can eat indoors. And you've been able to eat indoors, I think, like, always, pretty much. There was, like, that initial 2 weeks where everything was closed.
Yeah.
After that, you've always been able to eat indoors. My friend in New York, they don't have that. Like, everything is closed.
Yeah.
And there are cities that are going from, like, full closed to open now. Like, the idea is that you can have indoor seating, or I guess even outdoor seating maybe again. And it went from, like, you just can't be open to you can. And it is a question of, are things really good enough that difference makes sense? Or are people just more hopeful? Because not only the new administration, but the vaccine is rolling out, and we plan by the end of the year to not have COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that plan, I'm interested to see how that one turns out because I don't have that. I have faith in the vaccine, don't get me wrong. The distribution of said vaccine to me, I don't have faith in. Like, that's going to be such a lengthy process. I'm a young kid. I don't get my stimulus checks. I am relatively healthy. Like, I'm going to get the finger for who knows how long. Like, they're saying the end of the year. And I'm assuming in order to go back to school, I'm going to have to get the vaccine. But we'll just have to see what happens, how it plays out.
I need to get tested to go back to school, but I don't need the vaccine, and I go back in February.
Well, yeah, because you're a special case.
Am I?
Yeah, because you had the choice to stay home, right?
Oh, you're saying the school is?
No, like you choosing to go back is not the status quo.
I don't know if it's not the status quo per se. I think a lot of kids wanted to go back.
Yeah.
And, also had an in-person class maybe. But
now you're paying for housing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the idea is that everyone at UDEL, though, it's just like if you're tested for COVID, you can come back, That's been their real only statement.
Really?
You don't need the vaccine or anything. You just have to get tested.
We
if you have it, don't
we
come
had the
back.
same thing, but it's like prison apparently. From the kids who went back to campus, they were like, "This fucking sucks."
Luckily, the college I go to, I've heard like you can't. They made it so you can't go into other dorms, but you can. That's what I've heard, and I'm excited because they're definitely not going to increase security now that a vaccine's rolling out.
Yeah, I've heard like kids have curfews.
That's nutty.
Going to different dorms is definitely not allowed.
You're in a city though where like adults live and real people.
Yeah.
UD's pretty much a bunch of college kids, and all of them getting sick means that they all aren't sick anymore. It's a pretty simple process. I think you said like I'm gonna get the finger because I'm young and they don't care.
Yes.
But I think the idea is that if old people aren't dying if you get corona, they'll still be fine with you going into restaurants without a mask, The idea is that old people are vaccinated, will have more time to develop a cure. It'll be less lethal when people get it. Like, there's going to be so many benefits to the vaccine rolling out to even the older people because they don't care so much if young people get it. When the death toll drops and nobody's dying anymore, they're going to be like, oh, he's got corona, that sucks. But they're not going to be like, this is dangerous. Hospitals are going to become more open.
I feel like you're still dangerous to some extent.
It is, and it's not like something that you want to get, but it's way less dangerous.
That I got COVID on Monday, and then I felt fine by Thursday, I would feel guilty going out to dinner Friday night. Because, okay, all these... maybe all these people around me have the vaccine, but maybe not.
I get what you're saying. I'm just saying it's not that you have it and you're going out to eat. It's that you don't know you have it, so you could or you could not. The state we're all pretty much in.
Yeah.
I'm fairly confident I don't have it based on my circle, but technically I could have it. I'm not aware that it's not in me. The idea is they don't want people going to dining because it'll spread. I think once older people are vaccinated and the hospitals are less crowded, they're going to be more okay with everyone dining inside because it's like, well, if somebody does have it, it's not as big a deal.
Mm-hmm.
So you're still not going to go out to eat with COVID. That's still like a total uncool thing to do.
Yeah.
But like, they're just not going to be like, all right, we have to close this down in case somebody has it. They'll be like, if somebody has it, that's a bummer. But like, it's really not going to be a huge deal, as it would be kind of now, because the idea is it spreads and gets to somebody who's old and they die.
Yeah.
Or somebody with, I don't know, like a pre-existing condition, they call it.
Mm-hmm. Do we want to keep going with the cookie contest?
Oh yeah, announce
so
some
cookie. Yeah. So as you have heard from episode 9, we're still doing our Girl Scout cookie giveaway, but now we've upped the stakes to 4 boxes, not 2.
We are actually at a net loss for our 50 cents.
Yes.
Super Palooza or whatever.
But so you have the chance now to win 4 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. All you need to do is put Triptide on your Instagram story, tag Paranormal Snail in the post, and make sure you're following Paranormal Snail Entertainment. That's Paranormal Snail _entertainment. So just by doing that, you get 1 ticket entered into our raffle, and you'll have the chance to win 4 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. Now, again, if you order boxes of Girl Scout cookies using the link in our down in the description, it's in our profiles. We've posted it everywhere. It's a family friend. It's a specific link. If you show us proof of purchase that you've used this link and you've bought other Girl Scout cookies, you'll get 1 ticket per box that you order. So just increasing your odds. This is going officially now till February 3rd. So please post, and we're looking forward to doing the drawing real soon.
I just learned that our Instagram has an underscore in it.
Yeah, it does, right?
It does. I just never noticed.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's Paranormal Snail _entertainment. So What's our closer today? What do you got?
Are we on closers?
We're at 55 minutes.
Okay, I was waiting for our transition into our advertisement. I was like, we have to be around the 30-minute mark at least, because today we have a sponsor.
We do have a sponsor.
They're
Very
not
excited.
paying for the cookies or our show, but they are sponsoring us, and we appreciate it.
Check them out. This episode of Triptide is brought to you by Flat Ramps. The guys at Flat Ramps asked one question: why are ramps so dang curvy? So they said, fuck it, and made it flat.
Like your mama.
Are you tired of skating up those confusing curvy ramps at the skate park just to come back down again like an idiot? With the flat ramps, you'll skate right across and no practice needed, and you're actually going somewhere, forward. No longer are the days of climbing just to get places. Throw away that mountain harness and say hello to Flat Ramps.
Hey, I'm Flat Albert.
Let's hear a word from the president of Flat Ramps.
If we find you putting our ramps at an incline, we will fill your ears with quick dry cement.
If you go to flatramps.com and use coupon code Triptide, you can get one flat ramp at full price. Thanks to Flat Ramps for sponsoring this episode. Types of sausages.
All right, I hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go with this one. So, welcome back to Triptide.
Welcome back.
We're going to do our Song of the Week quick. It's going to be Arabian Nights. Yes, that's the song from Disney. No, not the one Will Smith sings. What is wrong with you? I think it's a
Why would
bop.
you even think that?
When I'm driving around the neighborhood, sometimes I'll blast Arabian Nights on Spotify. I gotta be honest, it just hits hard.
Interesting.
You know, maybe it's even culturally appropriated. I don't really know, but I know it sounds awesome. I really vibe to Arabian Nights. Just a good song, you know. I'm not like that guy who always plays Disney music, but there are some bangers. That is one of them. That's like a top tier song for me.
My recommendation this week is going to be Lou and the Yakuza, and that's Lous, and Yakuza spelled phonetically. This is a French pop band, but they just did a Tiny Desk video, so I recommend listening to their music. I've been bopping with it all day, but their Tiny Desk concert on YouTube on NPR Music, that is a great set. The excellent music, excellent singer. So Lou and the Yakuza, highly recommend.
Mm-hmm. And you had our closing question prepared?
Yeah, so this was something that has been really troubling my soul, something that I've been struggling deep down inside as a person, and I'm not sure if I'm not sure if I'll ever find an answer.
Say it, pussy.
You have a hot dog, an Italian sausage, and a bratwurst in front of you. We're going to start with all plain. They're all plain. You don't get any condiments. Which order do you eat them in?
Bratwurst, Italian sausage, hot dog. Quite simple for me. As a German family, we love our bratwurst. You know, the gherkins love our gherkins, and we love our bratwurst. But Italian sausage versus hot dog, that one gets a little tricky. But when it's plain, the Italian sausage provides flavor that's much needed. You know,
Okay.
I think I may have put hot dog above Italian sausage, but because it's plain, Italian sausage knocks hot dog out.
So the second you get condiments, they switch positions.
I think they might, because I do love a classic ballpark hot dog, a football game hot dog, just some sporting event. You know, the hot dog's been a classic throughout time. Bratwurst definitely a strong number one from the German homie out there, that less than 1% listening. You know it's bratwurst. You know what's up. Respect.
I think I have to agree with you. Bratwurst for both lists. Bratwurst number one, easy. It can have condiments. It doesn't need condiments. It's the bratwurst. It's the fan favorite. Italian sausage versus the hot dog, I think does get muddy with me as well. I think a plain hot dog is worse than a plain Italian sausage, but the second I can get ketchup on that hot dog, I'll put it above Italian sausage. Now, you get cheese added into the mix. Does your list change?
Bratwurst still on top. I think I've actually had cheese bratwurst before.
Mm.
Very good. I think it's still going to be hot dog than Italian sausage, just because I don't know if cheese goes well with Italian sausage.
I'd agree. Yeah, I think a cheese dog. I do love cheese dogs, by the way. So, cheese dog and bratwurst with cheese kind of gets muddy there too, because just the classic cheese dog is such a fan favorite for me. So, but yeah, I agree with your sporting event hot dog when, especially like a high school football game, when you get it wrapped up in that shitty tin foil, you know the ketchup's going to be everywhere. Or
it's so good.
It's so good.
I want like 7 right now.
And especially in the cold too. Like if you're at a cold football game, you get a warm hot dog. A+.
If you're in a cold football game, get a warm hot dog, and then leave to go watch Star Wars in your friend's minivan because it's too cold, which I have done and I recommend. I definitely think the hot dog hits. I want to hear from all of you guys down in the comments below. Rank hot dog, Italian sausage, and bratwurst in whatever order, whatever stances, whatever you're feeling. But I want those 3 ranked, all of you. And I want bratwurst at top. Now, and maybe that's a little biased, all right? But it deserves to be there. If you haven't tried it, my family has had bratburgers. Oh, very good. It's a cheeseburger, but it's made of a bratwurst.
Interesting.
It's actually
That
fire.
sounds awesome.
Yeah, I definitely liked it. I haven't had it in a long time, but I remember from when I was younger, they were scrum-diddly-umptious.
Why haven't you had them in a while?
I don't know. Probably
they're that good.
haven't thought about it, I'll bring it up to the parents. We're doing Walmart delivery, so I don't know if Walmart quite delivers these, but that's most of our groceries at this point in time because
Did you do that pre-quarantine?
No. We would order things, and I would drive and pick it up and then take it back home. So they'd have all your food ready.
Oh.
You'd go out, they'd put it in your car, you'd drive back.
They deliver it to your house now?
Yeah, now they drive to your house and they drop almost a laundry basket this recent time in your garage.
That's
and I just gotta
fancy.
take it in. But yeah, sometimes they'll just do bags on the front door. But my mom does not want to go into any establishments that aren't a restaurant. So we're just getting our food delivered. It's very nice. Definitely something we probably won't do when quarantine ends.
Yeah.
But it's a nice living, I enjoy it.
That's fancy. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I don't know if any of you knew, but we're fancy around these parts.
We got 50 cents. We make Walmart deliver to us now.
That's like a whole delivery fee, probably. Maybe.
That's their tip. Because I'm rich and don't care about tipping anymore.
Pretty much.
So, yeah, bratwurst, Italian sausage, hot dog. Rank them in the comments down below.
And we want to get a Star Wars podcast upcoming. I think the next one we'll announce our cookie winners, but maybe either next or the one after that, we have to get at least either Frank Wilson or Pernell on here. They're both Star Wars experts.
Yeah.
And we got to get a Star Wars podcast coming.
Yeah.
So that is coming to
Look
you.
forward to that. Look forward to more stupidity. It's coming at you hot and ready.
We are going to purposefully not study just for your pleasure.
Exactly. That's what we're good at here at Triptide. Oh. I hit the